Galloway is a construction manager and consultant, commercial and residential builder, and a certified inspector for all commercial and residential buildings. And now, here is About the House with Troy Galloway.
Hello, folks. Welcome to About the House. This is Troy Galloway. I'm the owner of Galloway Building Services. Really appreciate you folks joining us today. We got a great guest. You're going to really enjoy this show tonight because I've been trying to get this young man on this show for a long time because it's so important. Let me tell you a little bit about Galloway Building Services. We do home inspections, building inspections. We're a full-fledged inspection company. So what does that mean, full-fledged inspection company? Well, yes, we do home and building inspections. If you're buying or selling your house, we do a lot of commercial building inspections, PCAs is what we call them. So we do a lot of that. We specialize in that and licensed in that. But we also do construction litigation problems. So say you got a problem out there on the job and it's just something's not right or you don't feel it's right and you don't know and you just need a third party to take a look at it. We help with that. We also specialize in a lot of construction problems or inspections during construction, like on new homes or a new building that's being done. And you can check us out on our YouTube videos. I got tons of these things out there and learn more about these things. But also, I also help specialize in, sadly, divorces. And if you're buying, you got to buy your partner out or you want your partner to buy you out, you want to make sure you get the biggest or the best opportunity for everybody. And, when you get an appraisal, appraiser's only going to tell you it's only worth what the general, consensus of the neighborhood, not your specific ones, but your specific problems. So we put, because of our contracting expertise, I'm a building engineer, we could a price tag to that and identify the problems. Save you a ton of hassle. And my company phone number, if you want to give a hold of us that way, 636-394-3112. Also, you can find us out on the web at www.gallowaybuildingservices.com. That's an awesome way to get it. You can find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, all over the place. Let's get on with the show because I've taken this young man's time. I want to introduce a good man here, Blake House. Blake, he is the manager, right, of this?
Market director is my title.
What is it again?
Market director.
Market director. Oh, yeah. So does that mean? What does that mean?
I direct the market. Oh, I know. It had to be explained to me before I took the job. But yeah, basically, I've been given the keys to a branch to fix crawl spaces, to do basement waterproofing and that kind of thing. I've been doing this stuff for kind of a long time. Rolling around in crawl spaces is kind of a weird thing to be a specialist in. But I've been doing it for a very long time. I did it through an international company, so a big-time $2 billion company. I won't mention their name, but I worked for them. And so basically it was instructions. Let's do this because this is making other branches a bunch of money. Let's do this because it's making branches, And then slowly but surely, hey, we can waterproof crawl spaces. We can do encapsulations and vapor barriers in crawl spaces. And that was the instruction I was given. That's what we're going to do now. You go do that. And so through this company and everything else, I learned all of the wrong ways to do stuff, all of the wrong ways to do waterproofing, all of the wrong ways to do sump pumps, and all of the wrong ways to install an encapsulation, vapor barrier, dehumidifier, you name it. So this opportunity came my way a couple years ago where Crawlspace Medic, my company, was branching out and they're franchising. And so my owner purchased this one in St. Louis, and that's what we've been doing for the last year and a half, is expanding this business in Illinois and Missouri.
So we're in the Midwest, but we have a lot of crawl spaces in the Midwest. But we got even more, don't we? Even the further south we go.
Correct. Yeah, and I am actually I'm the 20th location. There's actually 25 in total. So it's formed in the Carolinas, and all the Carolinas are historical homes built on crawl spaces. Mm-hmm. And so they developed these systems and used these materials and everything else, and they kind of worked it out just like I did to where they can get you the kind of most bang for the buck products like that you need for your home. Basically tailor-making a service for your crawl space rather than just, you need everything. is what our philosophy is.
So tell folks why, as a builder, I know why we do it, but tell folks why do people build on crawl spaces versus a full basement or versus a slab?
Well, cost.
Yeah.
Cost. Obviously, when you're building a basement, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. You got to dig further. You got to pour more concrete and that kind of thing. And so, especially in our area of St. Louis and Missouri and that kind of thing, crawl space additions are very popular. I want to make my bedroom bigger. I want to make my kitchen bigger. And they look at the prices and they're like, well, that's a lot cheaper this way. Let's do this. And crawl spaces exist for a good reason. You're not just sitting on a slab of concrete. So now, if you need to work on your AC, if you need to work on your pipes, if you need to work on your electric, you hire a guy to go down there and he can fix those things. So we have that advantage to crawl spaces. They exist for a reason. It's just, but typically it's because of cost.
Right, and that would make. I found out that's what we did a lot when we did do a room addition or something. It was ridiculous to put a full basement inside of it unless it was specific purposes for it. Crawl space was perfect because then I could get it to the same elevation or the same level as the home. Where if it's on if I don't have to step it down if I'm going to do slab, and slabs are so cold. Or they can be so cold. Yeah.
And crawl spaces can be too sometimes, but it's mainly the ease of doing it, of the actual building and everything else. Then there's some other factors that come into it, like if you were to go onto the Illinois side of our river, your Bellevilles, Fountains and things like, a lot more crawl spaces.
Is that right?
Yeah, they have a lot higher groundwater table on that side of the river and a lot more clay. And so obviously it's more expensive to dig that than it is some nice fresh potting soil that we have like in Florissant and that kind of thing. So that's kind of another reason why crawl spaces are prevalent.
What is some of the issues that you run across more that needs corrected and that's probably done wrong?
Well, and originally when crawl spaces were first kind of designed, when they first started kind of building these things, the idea is you got a perfect square home. I put a vent here and a vent here and a vent here and a vent here. I open the vents in the summertime, I close the vents in the wintertime, and that takes care of it. And they're right to a degree. If you get perfect ventilation from one side to the other, yes, absolutely, you're going to be good in the summertime. And you close them in the wintertime, now my pipes aren't going to freeze. Great, I don't need to worry about humidity in that time. But as time has went on, as we've, not every house is a perfect square. So, you have dead zones, you have Y-shaped, V-shaped crawl spaces and things like that where you have dead zones where I don't care how many vents you put on that thing, there's going to be dead zones. There's going to be places where you're not going to get ventilation. And so that's part of what we do is try to work around that. In addition, because everyone's more and more colder, we keep getting more and more big ducts in our crawl spaces. So bigger AC units equal bigger air conditioner ducts that run through your crawl space equals more and more condensation. The hot air from the outside meets the cold air from your ductwork, which causes condensation, which if somebody goes down there to do a service in there, they tap your ductwork and it's a waterfall. And so that's just a small amount of moisture that can be released because we keep putting more air conditioning in our crawl spaces. And so because of that, my encapsulations have come to the forefront more and more every year to where it's almost to this point where it's going to be something you need to do to buy a house. It's getting to that point where it's like, okay, what are we doing? So.
Is there a lot of codes that are involved in what you have to do, code requirements that people need to be following?
You would think, but not really. From the construction aspect of what I do, yes, obviously. But a vapor barrier, and that's part of the problem that you run into. That's why if you were to Google an encapsulation service, it'll say somewhere between $1,500 and $15,000. That's a big gap. And because of that, you can get a chuck in a truck to, tear up a trash bag and roll it over the soil in your crawl space, and that'll kind of take care of some of the moisture. Or you can get the primo Cadillac of sealed and condensed and 4 dehumidifiers and whatever else you want if you want to get it that way. And so that's kind of what you can do from a crawl space.
So the vapor barrier, to make sure that we explain that right to the folks.
Oh, yeah.
Is that, now, I know the answers, but I know a lot of folks don't.
Yes.
We're putting that up underneath our insulation, up underneath our joist, or are we putting that on the floor, or what is this? Or on our walls? Tell the folks, because I want them to look and say, no, after hearing us today, oh, wow, I got some things here I need to take care of.
Yes.
You know, and not only to please not only tell us how it's done, where it goes, but what happens if it's not done right.
Correct. So crawl spaces have dirt soil. So because of that, I don't care how dry that soil is, it has moisture in it. It has water vapor. And because of the nature of water vapor, it goes up. So it either goes up into the insulation that you have installed up there, or it goes into the wood structure. And when the wood structure gets wet, gets moisture, it gets spongy, and then it gets bendy, and then it gets breaky. And so just something as simple as installing a poly vapor barrier on the ground of your crawl space can save you, thousands and thousands of dollars later on down the line.
So now when you put that you're putting that visqueen down, plastic. What mil?
I typically use a 10 mil.
That's great.
In our neighborhood, in our area. So, and that's something else that I really stress with our company is you can get a 20 mil, you can get I think you can buy a 50 mil. I don't even know what a roll of that stuff looks like. But because of our soil type and that kind of thing, like a 10 mil poly will get you where you need to be. We don't live here in St. Louis, we don't live in a swamp. We don't live in the Rockies. It's more than enough to take care of our soil types. And so that's what I target people towards, is the most bang for the buck.
So when you lay this visqueen down, plastic down on the ground here, and do you seal the edges or do you just overlap it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's the key thing. You want no exposed soil at all. Yeah, that's the key thing. We stake it, we seam it, we tape it. We make it all one piece to make sure nothing leaves that stuff. It's also important to mechanically fasten vapor barrier to the walls when you're doing that application of it, because when it can be 30 degrees when you drive to work and 80 degrees when you drive home from work. Because of our fluctuating temperature that's here, when you try to use adhesives and caulks and things like that to adhere a plastic to concrete, it never works. I don't care if it's a day later or 3 years later, it's going to fail. And so because of that, I always mechanically fasten. We use little Christmas tree fasteners, drill into the foundation, and actually adhere the vapor barrier so it'll stay there as long as your house does.
That's great. That way, when you're down there rolling around trying to get you service your furnace, we see a lot of furnaces and stuff down here now. The guys, the technician's not going to accidentally pull it apart.
Correct.
Because they would never, they don't mean to, but it's tight down there.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. And Lord only knows what they find down there. We'll talk about that later.
I got some stories, Troy.
Oh yeah, that's great because we love some of them. So now my piers. We are seeing a lot when I'm doing inspections, a lot of pier issues and post issues. How can folks know about the piers? If we're looking at themselves, and what can you do to help them? How do they know if the piers are there? But I see in my world a lot of times that's just got concrete blocks laying on the ground.
Oh yeah, or you're like,
and they call that a pier.
Oh, absolutely. Or there's a stack of bricks that's there, and you're like, huh. And you actually can take the brick out. You like those, where you can just. Yeah. Well, that's not probably.
I think it's a game, isn't it?
Oh, it's like Jenga. Exactly. It's Jenga under your house where it's supporting structure. Yeah. It's a real fun game. It's a real fun game that I see more and more. But yeah, the key thing is, you'll see like little jacks you can buy at Home Depot and things like that, where it's a metal jack and they kind of crank the thing and they put it under a joist. Hopefully they put it under a joist or something that, not the subflooring, because I've seen that too. That's scary.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. They get bold now. They get bold, Troy.
You pay for what you get. You get it, you got a tail light warranty, which we've talked about a lot of times on, that's what you get.
Absolutely. And especially with
we'll talk about warranties before we're out of here.
Yes, exactly. So with crawl spaces especially, no one's ever going to look in the thing. And from an inspector standpoint, no offense, but sometimes it's the crawl space inspection consists of the guy opened the access and took some pictures from the access. And a lot of times that is your crawl space inspection.
Well, the fact of the matter is that for inspectors, now I'll belly if in there if I can, but if it's unsafe, I'm not going. Absolutely. And some of them things I find in there, they're unsafe. Oh, absolutely. I'm not crawling underneath there. The animals, we can deal with them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I've dealt with my share of animals.
But I make plenty of noise, let them get out of there. But
typically, they're going to go the other way.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
So that's why we don't, because we don't, that's not our job.
Sure.
But as an inspector, what we should be doing is saying it's limited access So we really don't know, and if we see things, we need to make people aware of it, and then let people aware that this is the tone. Blake and his company can be people that can take care of it.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's definitely something that,
or at least give a more verified information.
Absolutely, because and lots of times the crawl spaces that nobody wants to get in are the ones that typically hide the biggest problems.
Always.
Yeah. I ain't going in there.
Actually, and what I even found even worse, hardest for us is that the access is so low for. And I'm going to ask you how you attend to that, because some of our clearance space, if you're a kind of a heavy fella, you're not squeezing through them places, and up and back up inside of them, and you go up over a hump of dirt and then the other side, and so how do you attend to that whenever the clearance is so? You just got like tiny people that you send in there?
I try to, yeah.
Tunnel rats?
I try to, yeah. No, I try to get as tiny as possible, but. One of the key things, I mean, it's on a case-by-case basis, obviously, but sometimes you got to dig a little foxhole. Sometimes you got to dig a little trench to get from one side to the other, because, your soil is, underneath the I-beam, the center I-beam, the center girder of the house, you only got this much clearance. Now, if I can get to the other side, I'm good. So, yeah, there are a lot of times where I always got a utility shovel with me, and also I'll dig a little trench to get to the other side to make sure that I can see all four corners of that crawl space.
I've been often thinking about getting a drone, like one of the little four-wheel drive trucks or something, and see if I could. But I've been worried that I'd get lost in there, and then I'd lose hundreds of dollars,
or get stuck, or it's just you never know with crawl spaces, because the terrain can be rock, water, mud, you can be in all different kinds of terrain in the same crawl space. And so, yeah, I've looked into that myself, too.
So how do you folks verify the piers? I kind of got sidetracked, forgive me, folks. How do you verify the piering so as you know that it's even adequate or to code or?
Yeah, and that's kind of the game you play. It depends on municipality and corner to corner and everything else. But you dig down as far as you can and see how the structure looks. That's the best thing you can do as far as making sure that your piering is correct. The biggest thing is you look for telltale signs of like, oh, here's some ceramic tile that's touching the board between here. Oh, here's some wooden shims that kind of touched at some point.
You're gonna get a kick out of that today.
Yeah.
Just today, I found one with plastic shims, and of course they're compressed already.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, and plastic shims. Well, they're not going to rot. They're just not going to hold
true.
plastic.
That's true.
I've never seen this before.
Yeah.
I shook my head, and
they do exist, but I don't know why. Yeah. Just the nature of plastic alone. Why would you use that as a structure point?
It is
what it is. Yeah.
There's great house flippers out there. Great house flippers, but there's a lot of them folks out there is all about the money, and they don't care one bit. Especially those who got companies that come in from out of the country. You can't even sue these guys, and there's a lot of these investors, and I know, I work for them all around the world. Some of them are good, some of them are not. So anyway, with that being said, so we kind of looked at the piers. Talk about the posts that we're finding and attachment to the beams. What do you see a lot that's happening there that's good, bad, or things that you think that, and correction issues? Because I've sent you out to some that you literally said, this is, we're not screwing with this one.
Yeah. And that's obviously when you're talking structure, especially when you're under the house and looking at some structure, you're like, and you back out slowly sometimes. But the key thing is when especially with in relation to house flippers especially, they're just looking to get the floor even. Let's get the floor as level as we can so we can put in that brand new, snap together, that nice, what is that, life proof? What is that?
Oh, there's tons of
what am I looking? Vinyl plank. Vinyl plank is what I was looking for. You do those snap together vinyl plank, make that look nice, put the nice backsplash, get the new fixtures, get all that stuff, make it look nice and new, and then, but underneath you have a board that's sitting in mud that's supporting all of that stuff. And so as soon as we get a wetter day or whatever, it starts to wear that board. That board is straight earth to wood contact. And that ain't going to last very long. And
even treated wood, folks.
Oh, it doesn't
treated wood is not ground. I say this all the time in my videos. treated wood is not, I know it's a lot of folks don't think that, but it's not a ground contact material.
Correct.
It's not ground
Correct.
contact rated.
Exactly, exactly. And same thing to be said for metal. I mean, like I said,
yeah.
those steel jacks that you can get where they'll just, kind of crank the thing, it's still metal. And so over time, metal is going to corrode. And because there's water washing over the top of that, it's going to wear out and rust the bottom of that pier. And so eventually that's going to fail on you too. So that's why you want to do concrete piers with Simpson strong ties with wood. And so that's the only way I know how to do post piers. Is the tried and true method of making sure that it's this step to make sure that it's structure safe.
And I got a lot of it. And actually, we was just laughing about that. Construction fails the video, and some of them I got some of the concrete blocks, and you saw when you watched it, literally they're leaning. I mean, it's got them stacked, and they're not plumb, not straight up and down, and they're just leaning. And it looks like they're going to fall over. Now, how would you guys got this job to fix it? Tell us some of the things that you would want to, how you would attend to fixing these things that look like we need to be underneath the house.
Yeah,
but can they be saved?
Most of the time we can save them. It depends to what degree you have to do removal and reinstalls. But a lot of times, I mean, you can fix a lot of stupidity with a good couple post piers and a drop girder. When it's done right, when it's done structurally, to make sure that everything is secured, you can save a lot of things like this. And so when it's done properly.
Good, yeah. So we see a lot of, and I see 4x4 posts, not straight up. I wonder if the house is moved or if they was just like, not dark and they can't see what they're doing. Yeah. I mean, I really don't. And I see a lot of them without the bisqueen. These people, and I've seen companies come in there all the time say, you don't need that. Or I see it underneath the insulation. And then, it's got the paperback crafted, and they call it, and that's our vapor barrier. It is a vapor barrier.
It's a vapor barrier.
But it's termite food too underneath the house, which termites. What do you guys see about up underneath there on these termites?
Yeah, and that's one of the other main draws of what we do is, termites like two things. They like wood and moisture. And so when you have direct earth, direct water, direct wood, you created a perfect environment for termites. And so that's another thing that the vapor barrier, just something as simple as rolling a piece of plastic over that dirt, can prevent. And less moisture, less earth to wood contact is always a good thing.
Do you recommend ever to put a dehumidifier in one?
Absolutely, yeah. There are times, and that's what I think separates my company from some other companies that offer similar services to us. Is we prescribe what's necessary. So there are times where you got a perfect square home. If I open these vents, if I install this vapor barrier, if you open and shut your vents when you're supposed to, I can save you some money. You don't need a dehumidifier. But then there's others where, because of the space of your crawl space, because of how it's placed, you're never going to get proper ventilation in this. We have to seal it off and install a dehumidifier.
Yeah, and actually in some areas of the country now it's code.
It is code, yeah.
Yeah, so
absolutely.
Not here.
Correct.
Okay, I wanted to make sure.
No, not here. Okay. No. There are definitely different areas that have different codes to follow the crawl space, but you follow the law.
Yeah, and then of course the wiring. I always worried about when I'm underneath that house, and a hot wire. You guys run across much of that crazy wiring?
Yeah, there's all kinds of like old speaker wire and phone wire, and you're scratching your head like, there's no way they use this anymore, right? But you hang it all the same. You get it out of your way and hang it all the same. I don't care what unless you see it laying on the ground where it's unplugged from something. You rehang it and get it out of your way because you never know what's active, what's not active. Maybe that next customer wants to use that weird speaker that's over in the corner. I don't know. You save it there for them. So, yeah.
Let's go to our perimeter walls. So what are we looking at when you're in there for moisture? What can you do for waterproofing? Because you did say waterproofing.
Oh, absolutely.
And so what are you looking for when you do a foundation or a basement inspection?
Obviously the perimeter walls are just important. The ground is, the straight exposed dirt is obviously the key thing. But even hollow block, concrete, whatever, you still have earth. You still have earth that's pressed up against the foundation. And so because there is water pressure there, it can seep in through the walls. Concrete is porous. And so especially with hollow blocks where it can seep in from the walls. So one of the main failures of old style vapor barrier was They would kind of sit it along the edges and put it just covering the floor but not going up the walls. Well, the problem with that is now you have seepage from the walls. Guess what? You just created a little water slide where now the water's seeping from the wall onto the top of your brand new vapor barrier and flowing down. And so it's very important that you know the grade all the way around the house when installing that vapor barrier product up the walls. Because if you have a higher or lower, if you're not bringing that vapor barrier up to the grade of the home, then you have created a place where the water can possibly wash over. And now, all that work that you just did to seal it up was for nothing because now you're getting water on top of it.
Actually made it worse.
You actually made it worse because now it's just going to sit there stagnant and be some nasty water. Good for mosquitoes and bugs and stuff like that. They love finding that.
Yeah,
but, you know.
they sure do. And have you encountered very often in some of these crawl spaces where they have actually installed a sump pit?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And that is something that we do absolutely, yeah. You know, and as far as prescribing it, it depends. You know, sometimes you need to do a foundation drain tile all the way along the foundation to catch wherever the water is, depending on your slopes and things like that. But yeah, a pit and pump is oftentimes key. You know, you see that all the time. You know, when you're inspecting crawl spaces, I'm sure where you're like needs drain. You know.
Well, when we do see that, but,
absolutely.
Most folks don't want to hear that when we do that at that time. But when you're doing a building, when a new building, we always put in. Well, we do interior and exterior drain.
Yes.
And tie it all together. Though that's not necessarily a code issue. Always, sometimes. Now, room additions should be, but they're just not. All crawl spaces should have drain. In my opinion, should have drain tile.
Absolutely.
And if you don't have a pump, at least your pit, just at least get it drained away out of the house,
Exactly.
depending on the ground.
Exactly, and it's a case by case basis. Every house is different. Every plot of land is shaped differently, and so it's all key to what it looks like, you know, when you're there. But yeah, that is.
So now I'm on back to my walls again because we're always along the edge with the sump pit. Now we're looking at my band boards and we talk about leakage, you know, seepage coming through. We get sometimes if our elevation's too high or drainage issues of our sound, we get moisture coming in around our band boards and our plates, and which I find to be what I'm looking for. I see a lot of really heavily damaged stuff. Now, what can you do to help fix that, or can you?
There are some weird situations where, like, if it's really poorly graded, sometimes, obviously, if your seal plate goes above the grade of the house, which I've seen, which really shouldn't happen, but it does happen. If that's the case, then yeah, now you need to attack that from the outside, because there's no way you're going to keep, when dirt is pressed up against a band board, there's no way you're going to keep water out of there. Dehumidifiers and things like that will definitely help. From a structure standpoint, if it's just a especially wet side of the house or something like that. But yeah, that for situations like that, that might be where it needs to be regraded from the outside.
Yeah, and believe it or not, folks, I see a lot of brand new construction brand new homes that they got the elevation too high. So you know, 6 to 8 inches. I know you know, but 6 to 8 inches below grade is where you're the ground level versus the top plate. So, and the reason is when our area is for snow. Now, that other areas it's higher, some areas it's different, but you always want a few inches up out of the ground. And,
absolutely.
But I see that all the time. I see that a lot in new construction where the grade but I want to make sure that folks don't automatically think that's something you do. But what if it's damaged? Do you replace the band boards? Can you do that type of work?
Yeah, we sister joist, we replace seal plates, band boards, all that good stuff. Things that are prevalent during water damage and termite damage and all that good stuff. We work hand in hand to fix those things.
And what about the wiring? If they did have wiring issues, because a lot of times they do you bring in an electrician?
I will bring in an electrician, yes. I keep everything to the professionals. So my ground rule is I don't want to paint anything. I don't want to finish anything. I don't want to drywall anything. I just want to focus on structure. I want to focus on what's in a crawl space. I stay in my lane, and that's also why I work good with other companies, is networking organizations and things like that, because I stay in my lane, I fix what I know I can fix, and then, hey, I got this guy. Hey, I got this guy. And so I work well in those circles.
You know why it's important, folks? It's because one day you're going to sell your house, and somebody's going to be looking underneath there. And if that's not done right, and it's not done to code, then it's going to cost a ton of money. So a lot of these guys do it for half price, and you're getting half job done. It's going to cost you tons more later. every time.
Absolutely.
So that's good to know that, because that is a lot of problems. And now for HVAC, now, I won't get back to electric, because it's hard for me to picture. Plumbers, yeah, they're good about crawling underneath there, because
They're used to it.
But electricians, that just doesn't seem a place that I can find good. Good electricians want to belly up underneath there. Do you guys have some good people you work with?
It can be tricky, but yeah, no. Through the course of doing this over years and years, yeah, I've made some partnerships with people that are like, I'm sure the technicians are like, oh, this guy again, but I know they do quality work, and that's what's important.
Yeah, it is important, especially when you don't see it.
Exactly.
Which I'm going to move into this. Mice.
Yeah.
This is mouse season, as we know. They're coming in, and they eat wire. They eat everything. Do you run across much of that? I know a great guy that you probably know too. And he's been on my radio show, so we won't go there right this minute. But anyway.
Now I don't want to know who you're talking about.
Oh, okay. Actually, well, I have to send you the link. Check out the radio show for the inspection company. Yeah. But he's through BNI, so you probably.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I probably know. I think I know.
Yeah,
that's all right. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, but anyway, because So what do you guys do when we find like mice nest or something? I mean, do you, because we're going to move into another subject here. So if you find a nest of mice, do you call the exterminator? Do you just kill the mice?
We can.
What if they're a pet?
We can.
A pet?
Yeah.
Because that's a story that I got.
Yeah, we name him Ben. And we go down. No. In a previous life, I did a lot of wildlife and pest control in my day. I'll just put it that way.
Like skunks.
And so I have extensive knowledge in exclusion, what we call exclusion services, where you seal up critter entry points and that kind of thing. And so a lot of times, hand in hand, unfortunately, when you are under those things, you find a lot of critter entry points. And so I will make that a part of my service. All a mouse needs is the size of a pencil to fit its body into. And so when you know that, when you can walk around the outside of a house, can I shove a pencil there? Can I shove? It scares you sometimes. And so, something as simple as applying some steel wool or sealing up some different critter entry points, it'll save you down the road when temperatures start to drop and things start to move in.
Yeah, but they're moving in now. So one of the stories I just got, it's so funny. My sister's left us now, but she had pet rats.
Okay.
So ex-wife 1 and ex-wife 2 are living together in the same little apartment complex.
Oh, wow.
And my sister's ex-wife 1. And so ex-wife 2 sees a rat. Well, naturally, she kills the rat. It was my sister's pet. And it got away. It was living underneath the crawl space, and it come up underneath to her unit. I don't blame her. I'd have killed the dadgum thing too.
They're scouting out. One man's trash is another man's treasure.
Oh,
One
boy.
man's pet is another man's rat.
Yeah. I'd have killed it too. That's so funny.
No.
We teased her right to her dying day. But there's all kinds of varmints get up underneath these things.
Oh, yeah.
And we get skunks underneath there. And tell us some of the things that you've seen up underneath.
You mentioned the first one. That's the only time I've ever turned tail and went the other way. Like, snakes and things, there's definitely been some snake wrangling that I had to do to get my technicians into a crawl space to do some stuff.
I bet.
But, usually I go in, they go the other way. Groundhog burrows are popular.
Oh, I never thought of that.
Oh, man, and they can do some stuff. Like, they can really tear out, you can see what they do to porches and driveways and things like that when you have a good-sized burrow. They're hollowing out the underneath of that. And so when you see that on a porch, when you see that on a driveway, or when you see it next to a pier in a crawl space, that's really hollowing out the dirt that makes up the part of your structure. And
right.
So that can be some scary stuff sometimes.
So you catch them? Yeah, trap them?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I've caught some groundhogs and some raccoons and different things like that.
Yeah, I bet. Because I've had homes that we've had skunks live underneath there, and nobody can get up underneath it.
Yeah.
And something that I wanted to say a little bit back ago for the people that when they get a home inspection, if an inspector cannot get up underneath that house, that inspector should make a note that I cannot thoroughly inspect it, and it requires a more thorough investigation, observation, because we're supposed to be non-intrusive.
Absolutely.
But sometimes you got to be a little intrusive. A perfect example, and I feel so sorry for this young man, but I did the inspection, And he was so emotionally involved. He was so happy about buying his house. But I told him I could not look up underneath his crawl space. It was only, it was oddly enough, it was pretty much all slab, but right in the center of the house, the old original house, there was a crawl space. And there was a trap door. And there wasn't any room to crawl up underneath there. But he had some wash out, probably from a varmint or something like what you were saying.
Sure.
And by the time you could get in there, it had destroyed the whole front of the foundation, and he was having big problems. Yeah. And just because he didn't take the moment to read and to go deeper into it. Yeah. So I mean, is that important, you know? And
absolutely.
I mean, the house that we always say that the roof is important, but the roof is not worth 10 cents if you got a foundation falling.
Exactly. Yeah. Start from the ground. Start from the top to the bottom. You know, if one fails, then sometimes the other one does.
So we also here in our part of the world, we get a lot of muds, well, not necessarily us, but other parts of the world or our country, where we're getting mudslides and we're on hillsides and we really don't get down to we're on rock. And the guys cheat, you know, and they hit a little rock and they're fine because rock's really a pain to dig out to make for a pier, which great piering if you do it right, but slipping down the hills. We get a lot of, we're getting, you know, like driveway, you know, streets, well, not even our streets, so, you know, our streets are even, you know, smooth. So what do you see much of this in crawl spaces? Is this something that you run across into often?
Rock?
No, houses moving.
Oh, moving, yes. Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Rock. I mean, when you're in Missouri, if you don't find a rock,
somebody you were looking. Yeah. You didn't look close enough. But
you're not stoned enough.
You know, obviously, the closer you in our territory, the closer you get to the Ozarks, the more rock you hit. And as you know, as you go down that 55 corridor, as you go closer to the Ozarks, that's what you're going to run into is more and more rock. And, you know, I've learned more and more about dead man's anchors. Do you know what a dead man? I'm sure you do. Tell what a dead man's anchor is.
Well, a dead man anchor actually for your foundation, it just is nothing more than, so you drop down and it goes out of the building. Kind of like, and then it's like sometimes we put big plates, sometimes they're bells. There's all kinds of different kinds of systems. But basically, I'm going to do it like this with my ink pen. So you got this. I got my steel plate holding my foundation, and then I got something way back here in the back. And then I would like to see myself. Now, a lot of these companies do not do this with these, but I like to see this concrete all the way back. You know, in case this, and then why concrete, and then have it belled out. That way, it'll absolutely hold it from sliding down that hill, because we do it all the time. But we're also finding a lot that. And I don't know if you guys see this often, but where and actually I'm going to look at this on a new construction tomorrow. Whereas the house is slipping down the hill because they didn't put the piers in deep enough. And they went to the 32 inches, which is our code.
That's the code.
Here in where I'm at in the St. Louis region. But they went deep enough, but not for the soil. So what do you guys how do you attend to that? Do you call a soil engineer out if you find plastic or something?
Not necessarily. It depends on, again, case by case basis, obviously. But like, you know, let's talk fluorescent. So fluorescent is, I mean, it was an orchard. You know, it's potting soil. Like you want to grow some stuff, go grow it in fluorescent. But because it's such soft soil, you got to dig deeper. You got to do more digging to get down so you can pour more concrete to create more structure because of the ground being so soft and being so spongy. Whereas you're harder when you cut out some clay. I mean, like, you know, a lot of times you don't even need to do drain tile because you've just cut a path through clay and that'll carry the water, you know.
Right, for your drain tile.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I want you to, for the folks to think about this, though, and I know you know this, but so a lot of this part of the world, we have what we call plastic soil. And I got videos on this, so you can just go to my videos and look out there on YouTube. But plastic soil, how do you know if you got plastic? It's very expansive. And when you cut it open, you just slice it. It looks like Play-Doh. And it has all kinds of different streaks in it. Now, that's not a scientific valuation, but if you see this is when you do go get a soil engineer, call me, and we'll help you get you taken care of. But you get a soil engineer, and he'll tell you exactly, actually why you want to do that is because that way it's his John Henry warranty and it's
Yeah,
not you.
Correct.
I mean, that's his specialty, and it'll make sure that he takes it's done and the piering's done deep enough. Because this he's like 20, 30 feet and it's still not deep enough for his piers. And so when I go out to take a look at it, I'm going to be looking to see, where's your engineering report, who did it, and what possibly could have changed. That plastic soil has such a tendency to, so I've had homes literally will raise anywhere from 3/4 to 2 inches every year, up and down, because that plastic soil dries out, it drops, folks, and then it shrinks, then it swells, and it lifts that house right up. Well, you guys are in such a little tiny area, it's kind of difficult. Now, I don't know that we have if that would be as big as problem or not. That's kind of one of my questions.
Yeah, it's
long ways of getting there.
It's a long ways of getting there, but yeah, that's it's case by case basis, obviously. Sometimes I do consult a structural engineer. Sometimes I do get the experts involved, depending on what the soil type is. But yeah, you want to make sure it's to code and make sure everything's done right.
Yeah, and then sometimes it's best, folks, to spend that little extra money. Because there's nothing more, because Blake will do whatever you want, but he's going to tell you, you're not really going to, you're not going to solve your problem. I'm not going to warranty this.
Correct.
And we'll talk about warranties at the end here because warranties are so important in today's world.
Absolutely.
But tell us some of the creatures that you found out, or some horror stories down there, because I got a beautiful one that I just saw the other day on TV.
Sure. And I
which I posted.
Someday I'll do like a flip book of just like Pop-A-Top beer cans that I find in Crawlspaces, because that's a very popular thing to find. Like, random soda bottles, just old, relics from things. Especially when homes were built like Depression era and things, like it seems like people didn't want to leave anything. Like, I'll need this piece of siding. I'll need this, steel beam or whatever, Guess where they store it? In the crawl space. And so it just kind of sits there and rots. And so one of the key things that I offer is removal, is haul away, is getting that stuff out of there, because something as simple as, an old car seat or an old tire that, that's for my, 47 whatever, I'm going to need that later. You're never going to need that. But it sits there anyway, and so it slowly starts to rot. And so now that tire is now a harborage for mosquito larvae, and here comes the mice. They got something to drink now in their tire, and so one of the key things that we offer is just something as simple as haul away. Get that old insulation out of there. Get all that old stuff that you don't need, because it's just a harborage for critters and moisture and everything else. So yeah.
Yeah. So insulation. Do you guys re-insulate the floors?
Correct.
Now I'm running across more and more where they actually when they spray foam. Do you guys do that?
Absolutely.
Tell us something about that, because I find this absolutely exciting and awesome.
So for the longest time in a crawl space, when you would insulate, they would just insulate the floor joists. So you put your vapor barrier the right way, and you install your batted fiberglass insulation along the joist. Well, that's good. It's protecting the floors, but you're already losing the battle, because you're already letting the cold air into the crawl space before it's actually going to get affected by protecting your floors. So my philosophy is keep it out of the crawl space altogether. So, and we'll do that a number of different ways. Closed cell spray foam insulation is a very popular way that we'll do it, depending on accessibility and that kind of thing. But it's something you can just slather onto the walls, and it's filling in all the gaps and all the creases and all the any place where air might be traveling between your little gaps in the hollow blocks. It'll seal all that off and be a whole lot better for you.
So it's not a spray on, it's a...
no, it's a closed cell spray foam insulation. Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll do that. There's also styrofoam board is something that I've been using a lot more lately, just because it's more tried and true. It still has a moisture barrier. It still has a vapor barrier that's on the actual product. But what I'll do is I'll use it in conjunction with our encapsulations. So instead of a vapor barrier going up the walls and to the floor, now I'll use that styrofoam board and attach that the same way, and then attach my vapor barrier to that. So now, not only am I encapsulating, I'm also adding some R value. and trying to keep that cold air out of that crawl space.
I like that idea. Yeah, I do. I think I've not seen that yet, but I like that
It's
idea.
it's like I said.
Is it cheaper than using a spray? Because I know that's not
slightly. Yes.
And then of course you don't have the off gassing either that you get off.
And that's part of the issue is the guy's got to wear masks and things like that because it's two components when mixed together. It's once it dries it's perfectly safe, but application is a concern. And so anytime you're doing anything in crawl spaces, I want to take care of my guys, and so ventilation, breathability is always a key thing to that.
So want to know more about this off-gassing, check out one of my past videos that we've done just on insulation. I think it was a 2-part series or something on that. It was great, and what part of it is that type of gas.
Correct.
Some of the gas is coming from, but not just gas is coming from that, but that's one of the biggest ones we've having trouble with. But done right, it is. I swear by it. I think it's just most fabulous product. And for those of us that are interested in making our homes energy efficient, but yet conservation approved, that's the best way of doing it.
Oh, it really is. Yeah, it's great stuff that they're coming out with. I mean, it's antimicrobial, anti-mold, like all these things, all these concerns that you have. Like I said, we'll use spray foam in conjunction with our vapor barriers to create an encapsulation that way, and then add an R value. But it depends on accessibility, that kind of thing, breathability.
Yeah, well, that is really awesome. So tell us a little bit now about your warranties and what's the difference between why your warranty is better than other people's or worse than others. Because I mean, other people have. Now we know tail light warranties.
Correct. So obviously, the bulk of my business is plastic. Is putting a poly vapor barrier onto the floor, onto the ground of a crawl space. Now, I have a 25-year material warranty on that product itself. Meaning natural moisture, natural thing, it ain't gonna break down. That much we can guarantee. But because of the nature of a piece of plastic, when your electrician goes down to make some adjustments, when your AC guy goes down to check your HVAC lines, there is that possibility where, oopsie, I dropped a screwdriver, or oopsie, oopsies happen. And so because of just the slightest puncture to this vapor barrier, now you kind of compromise the whole thing because now you've allowed for a place where water vapor, where moisture can possibly escape. And so it's a tricky thing to warranty, but that's what I offer is a natural warranty. As for 25 years. Yes.
And I think that's all you can do. And actually, I would recommend, folks, is that if you got a tradesman going underneath there, you tell him to get some boards to lay on, and that he does a video. Remember that, folks. That when your tradesman go in after you get a waterproof this kind of stuff work done on your crawl space, have him do a video going in, your tradesman's, and a video coming out. And actually, you probably do it too already, give them pictures and stuff of what the end product looks like.
Oh, absolutely.
So, for a guy my age, we don't really want to crawl underneath that 12-inch, and I don't want to crawl through them tunnels that you made.
Yeah.
I did that in Vietnam. I'm done with that. I don't want to know what's at the other end of that tunnel no more. Yeah, I'm too old to run.
Absolutely. But yeah, and I always leave like a little partial roll of tape. So we have like a waterproofing seam tape that we use to adhere the vapor barrier to each other. And so I always leave like a little partial roll because oopsies do happen. And so I want them to have that availability, that available to them just in case something like that happens. And so always keeping a little roll of tape by the access is
just make sure your tradesmen put some Luan down or something on there.
Exactly.
They can drag it out. Heck with that. That's their responsibility.
Sure.
But that's my opinion.
That's why the warranty kind of is what it is.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to guarantee. But.
Yeah, and it really is. And I know that. And trying to jack up boards that are warped, you're never going to make them ever. You can't put how's that? You can't put lipstick on a pig and call it beautiful. But at least it's got lipstick, I guess. But we do need to work. People need to think about that. We got a lot of moisture issues around here in our foundations, a lot. And so I got to tell one last story that I just saw, and I think I just posted it on my Facebook page. I need to put it elsewhere. It wasn't my experience, But we're in bear season, and they're going into hibernate right now, you know. And, yeah, oh, you probably said you
I saw it on Facebook.
Yeah, and it's not like I took credit. I didn't do it, you know. It wasn't my job, but anyway, it was so funny because that bear crawled underneath their crawl space, lived there all winter. Which, you know, you can't blame the bear. It was a nice warm spot. Probably had nice Christmas music playing on,
sure.
You know, and treats falling, you know, into the cracks. But come springtime, that bear was coming out of that foundation, and they got a picture. You got to check that out. It is hilarious. And that big old black bear comes out.
Yeah, oh, it's huge.
And Mama Bear is mad. She's hungry, and we all know when Mama Bear is hungry, get the heck out of the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's been the popular question. I've never seen a bear, unfortunately, but yeah. But that's the thing. Like, it was such a big bear. Like, you could surprised
you're talking
it
about
could
mice.
fit through. I mean, you're talking maybe a 2 foot by 2 foot access, maybe with this big old bear like barreling through the thing. Yeah, it was impressive to see.
Oh, I'd have thought you'd have heard it snoring.
Right? You always wonder.
I told my wife, I said, maybe I shouldn't put this out here, but I told my wife, I said, that looks like a bear rug to me. That thing ain't getting nowhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, honestly, I'm just teasing. Yeah, wink, wink, nod, nod. But well, now that we got bear around here, heck, you know, it's crazy. But now a lot of ground bees and stuff, and bees and stuff, all that stuff.
Ground hornets.
And yeah, that's why really I think it's just great to hire somebody like yourself to get up underneath there, take a look at it. This isn't a place that amateurs want to get up underneath there. And I mean, we hear 911 stories or people, older guys in particular, because we think we can do everything like we did when we was younger. We get in there and get stuck.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and can't turn around, or you know, and or whenever that snake starts biting at you, you bounce your head off that floor joist to go out cold. You know.
Sure.
Well, anyway, Blake, thank you for coming on to the show. I appreciate you greatly. Do you have anything more you wanted to add, or any stories, or any advice that you'd like to share with the folks?
No, not really. I mean, I'm very happy. Like I said, this has been, with this company in particular, this has been the most beneficial, the healthiest I've felt, the safest I've felt. I know it sounds weird with Crawlspaces, but like, as far as a company allowing me to run things the way I want to, not making me constrain, because California does it this way, you have to do it this way. I haven't had to do that yet. Like, if something doesn't make sense, I don't do it, and they allow me to do it. So
do they do anything in California anymore?
Nah,
it makes sense.
I don't know what they do in California.
I got family out there, so they're watching this show. So you know I'm talking about y'all.
Exactly. I just know that like a lot of legal things, it all stems from California and all kind of rolls to us eventually.
Boy, yeah, I guess what that says. There's a saying about what rolls downhill, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
Well, tell us, give the folks the name of your company, phone number, email, Facebook. Tell them how they can get access to you.
Absolutely. So Crawlspace Medic is my company. I am the market director for the St. Louis region. There are 25 locations across America. I was the furthest west, but actually now they just opened one in Colorado, in northern Colorado. So they are now the furthest west. But Nashville, Columbus, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Chesapeake, Birmingham, Alabama, Knoxville, Nashville, all over the place. So we're moving, we're spreading rapidly over the years.
So the new company out in Colorado, folks, if you smell a skunk, it might not be an animal.
Absolutely.
But it takes a lot of courage to get up underneath there and do
Absolutely.
that. That's not a job for the weak-hearted. And you got to be tough. You got to get up underneath there. I admire you folks. Well, and you told them how to get a hold of you and everything. And
Crawlspacemedic.com. Best way to you can go to my website. You can click on whatever city you want. You do an inspection request. Bada boom, bada bing. That comes to whoever you want to talk to get your crawl space or basement taken care of.
But your phone number for here?
Oh, yeah, 314-750-5033. I got a local office in Brentwood. I got a couple guys. I'm at Brentwood, and I'm at Hanley in Manchester. I got a couple guys do work for me. We keep it simple.
Good, man. Hey, call me, contact me. I always recommend this company. They always do. If they can't do it, you don't want anybody else to do it. Try to do it, because if they can't be done, they'll be honest with you. They do great work, and I will recommend them. So contact, if you don't get a hold of him, if you have trouble reaching Blake personally, contact me. I guarantee I'll recommend it. Now, and didn't you say earlier that you would give anybody that says that they watched you on this show a discount of some sort to help them with something?
Absolutely, Troy.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate it. Everybody does. And but hey, folks, It's worth your time. Hey, give us a call. Galloway Building Services. Our phone number is 636-394-3112. And Blake, your phone number one more time.
314-750-5033.
Okay, right fast.
Right fast.
Thank you, folks. Thank you, Blake.
Thanks, Troy.
You have a good day.
You too.
Sponsored by Troy Galloway and Galloway Building Services. GallowayBuildingServices.com.